Okay.
We're live.
Yes, you are.
Now I got about 10 seconds. Okay, I've got 6 o'clock. I would like to call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Once everybody should have the packet. Once you get a chance to look over the minutes from the April 7th meeting, if I could get a motion in a second to accept.
So moved.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. In your packet, it was emailed out yesterday. You should have the minutes, the appropriation status, the vendors, and the SRO report. Everything was sent via email. Everything's on file. Any questions?
I got one.
With that,
I noticed on the SRO report that there was a minus $400 and some.
correct.
Is that going to be caught up when you get the final payment? Is that going to get caught up?
When we made that SRO full-time, the school covers a heavy portion of that. The school does not cover that position 100%. When we went full-time, and Jenny, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but based into the full burden rate plus the healthcare is where that started to come to a little bit of a minus.
Just was wondering.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Michelle, anything from citizens? Nope.
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Old business, we discussed it. We discussed the distracted driving ordinance. And we said at council that we would bring it back to safety over the wording. Open for discussion. Mayor?
I spoke with Scott and his question was, if he is already on the phone that he had answered before he came into the village, he's not dialing, but he's talking. Can he get stopped for that? I guess is the way he.
No, at this time, if, for example, somebody is coming through and they're on speaker and they're saying, yes, all right, I'm on Route 44. They're not manipulating the keyboard. They're focused straight ahead and they're just holding the phone. They're not manipulating.
Gotcha.
So
that was his concern.
Or looking at it, I guess. Because I think you're not supposed to be interacting with it.
right. If your voice is one thing, but like Michelle says, if I'm driving and my head's down, if I'm looking at my cellular device, I'm not paying attention to the road ahead.
So do we need to say hands-free? You need to be operating at hands-free?
It's up to you if you want to. I mean, if a person's just holding it up to their ear, I don't think that takes their eyes off the road. But I mean, if you wanted to be ultra conservative about your approach, then you could do that.
I don't agree with that. Because not everybody has Bluetooth and one of those ear things and where they don't need to hold the phone. But
Isn't that what some of the other municipalities have, is the hands-free?
I'm sure some do have that.
I disagree with that.
Marty, any opinion?
Yeah, I think if you have one that's automatic in the car and you can handle it while you're driving, I don't see any problem with that.
If I hold it up to your ear.
But if you have to hold it up to your ear, no, because you're concentrating on this. You only have one hand. So.
So it's your recommendation we go completely hands-free?
I don't agree with that.
No, I'm just, is that Marty, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And that's what I think too, because I mean, back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. You know, you're supposed to drive or operate a vehicle. What do you need a phone for? I mean, in a true emergency situation, that would be different, right?
How can you
Well-
put that into ordinance? You're gonna put that into ordinance that if it's an emergency situation, that it's all right?
It is in there. There are exceptions for emergency situations.
Fact of the matter is, if you want to talk to something when you're in the car, pull over.
Right.
Well, and I see both sides of the argument out on the road. I see where somebody's gonna say, if they have their phone up here and they're on speaker and they're talking, it's not a distraction. And I see the other side of it. If you can have it on here on speaker, why can't you have it down on the seat or
Right.
placed on your armrest or cup holder on speaker? It's the same purpose as a hands-free device. So I see both sides of it. It just depends on how strict we want to make it.
And I feel that if you were to drop that phone, that would be a true distraction right there. It would take your eyes off the road. So the fact that you have to hold the phone is not a good thing.
I disagree.
And I think that the officers will use their common sense when it comes to that. If they see somebody is not paying it, not even looking at the road, stop them.
And that's sometimes, Marty, you're right. Sometimes we are pulling people over and it's our belief by their actions and their movement that they are manipulating the keyboard and texting. And we get well, I was on my phone, or I was making a phone call, or I was answering the phone call, and it's very important. So we kind of get both sides of that.
I know, but at least you stopped them that one time, so nothing happened. And
Yeah,
they'll
when in
make
doubt, I mean, it doesn't mean,
sure they
it
do it
doesn't,
again in town.
right. So am I hearing from the safety committee that we want to move forward with that you cannot have your cell phone in your hands at all?
Not with me.
Well, it sounds like I got 2 yays and 1 nay, but is that the wording we're looking to?
That's what
I'm not going to object to that.
Michelle, any problem with any advice on the wording then?
Not off the top of my head. I think you're probably going to have to hammer this out at council. I mean, I can take the time between now and the council meeting to come up with some wording that says you can't be holding your phone in your hand for any purpose. Might be as simple as that. And then it'll be up to council to decide if they want to amend it to include that.
So
So
safety
that's-
just has to bring it up that they would like to discuss an amendment then, correct?
Right.
So I guess at this point, can I get a motion and a second to take this back to council and we'll hammer it out there?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Aye.
Aye.
No,
Okay. The other thing under old business traffic enforcement concerns, we discussed that at council where about the locations of our traffic stops. Unfortunately, we know that it's very busy in the downtown area. We can't always not pull somebody over if we feel they're doing something, if we have an infraction. Unfortunately, we may have to inconvenience a business here or there, but ultimately it's for the safety of the businesses. So sometimes we got to put up with the bad to do some good. Also, other old business personnel, we interviewed a part-time dispatcher. That person has started their training. We did move an auxiliary officer to part-time. You guys voted on that at council. And then we talked about the process of adding a full-time officer. Also, under old business, working on an OCGS grant for another MDT. I have some further information that I did bring up to council since the last safety meeting. It is a 90% reimbursement grant, and the project total is going to be about 4,300. So for about $430, we're getting $4,000 worth of stuff. So that was some updated information that I got, and we were awarded that project. And there was nothing else under comments or old business. Under new business, the COVID guidelines. I know with everybody getting vaccinated, there's concerns. Are we going to start meeting in person? When's the government center going to open? When's the lodge going to open? When's playground going to open? When are we actually going to open up? I just keep telling everybody, let's see what the governor does. I know they're starting to open some things up. There was a concern. Somebody wanted to rent the lodge, and my concern was when this all started, the police department wasn't the mask police. That was a health department. And the same thing, the way I understand the latest from the governor is, if somebody wants to have a family gathering, as long as everybody in that family's had both vaccinations and it's been 2 weeks, you can now meet without a mask. Well, the police department's not going to be the vaccination police down at the lodge if somebody were to rent it. However, they could look at using the pavilion. You're out in the open, you can social distancing. But the person wanted to have a gathering coming up in June, and somehow the number that I said was 10 to 12 people. I don't set the guidelines. So that was a little bit of misinformation somewhere. So if you're hearing that I said that the lodge can only hold 10 to 12 people, that was not me. It was my recommendation that if we can't control it, then we would have to look at something or possibly have it outside. But they had the election yesterday. They had the little green X's on the floor. We ozoned it before, and I'm going to do it again tonight. And everybody wore masks when I saw the workers down there. So I think we're starting to open up. I just don't know that we're to the point where we want to start opening up for events until we can get to that point. A lot of people are starting to schedule outdoor stuff. As far as the government center, we haven't really discussed that. I've had some requests for tours of the police department. I've denied those requests, just not comfortable enough with the different groups that want to come in and do a tour, because if I lose 1 or 2 dispatchers, that could really put a damper on our services. So I'm just not comfortable with it yet at that point. One of them coming up wanted to do they wanted to come in and view the department as well as the K9. I've offered to do a K9 demo out in the open area. And, I can kind of describe what we do here at the police department on the outside world, and it's just going to be better for everybody that way. So people were asking if we're going to start holding meetings in person. I said that that's something they could possibly bring up. I mean, we can mention it as safety. It's up to you guys. And ultimately, we could bring it up at council. I just don't know if we're at that point yet. I know at one point we had talked about us meeting upstairs, spaced out, and then having possibly a camera to be able to still live stream, if that was an option. But with the COVID going on, those conversations just kind of went by the wayside. I said, let's just see what the spring brings. I know for the last 3 days, we've had a constant increase in cases. So I guess we just have to wait and see what the cases do, whether they're going to decrease or not. So that's what I have under COVID guidelines. The other thing under new business, the dispatch contract with Garrettsville. The agreement when we started dispatching for Garrettsville Police Department was that was signed in 2016. That it was on June of 16, and that covered the years 17 through 21. So that contract is up. That was a 5-year contract. their contract is up at the end of 2021. Garrettsville Police Department has contacted me and they wanted to discuss their contract with the village. And they have put out other feelers to other entities. And they did get a quote back from the Portage County Sheriff's Office that was substantially lower. So they'd like to make a decision by July 1st, whether to stay with us or go. The mayor and I did meet with the chief and one of their council members last week. And we laid everything out. And it was their recommendation, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, that it seemed like even if we were to try to meet the number that they were given, that it's going to be their recommendation to go to their council to take dispatching services to the Portage County Sheriff's Office effective the 1st of next year. So
The only other thing that the chief did say was he had not decided what his recommendation would be, whether it would be to go with the village if we were to match the county's price. But reading his body language, and I think you felt the same way, that he's leaning towards the county at this point. Not saying that that is the decision, but that's how the conversation went, that he is leaning towards the county.
and that was the council member that came over also stated that they feel that ultimately that they feel Manaway may have to make that same decision they did. And what we said is that we would like to, we feel that it's good for our residents when they call to get a local person here and not somebody in another town. I mean, he's getting the quote for the dispatching at the sheriff's office is about $55,000 a year cheaper than what we're paying. When the contract was hashed out in 2016, if you remember Chief Booker, they were looking to take on 9 entities. So we were basically going to dispatch for the whole entire northern Portage County area, including Manaway Police and Fire, Hiram Police and Fire, Wyndham Police and Fire, and Garrettsville Police and Fire. So we were looking to do a whole bunch. And then it started fading out, and also community EMS, that's where the 9th one was. And then people started backing out one by one. Well, the former chief of Garrettsville opted to stay with us. So they worked out the numbers, and that's where we were with this 5-year contract. Well, now the county comes up with a different formula based on population, and that's where Garrettsville would have not quite a third of the cost, but it's like I said, $55,000 cheaper if they were to go that route. We did express our concern that the more and more entities that, and it's no disrespect towards the sheriff's office, but the more people they take on, unless they add terminals or people, you're not getting the one-on-one service that we provide. And I consider it a business. And when the dispatchers, I've been instructing them that, they're a paying customer and we treat them, with top priority, and we have a one-on-one service with them. So it's something I need to make you aware of. They are looking at other options. And that's why I asked Jenny to be here, because ultimately, if that decision's made, it's going to impact the village financially. There is another misconception out there that the money that Garrettsville pays for dispatching to the village of Manaway, 100% of that comes to the police department, and that's totally not true. So, in this agreement that was it was resolution 2016-23, the contract with Garrettsville for the year 2021, they're paying $92,741.93. With that being said, Manaway Police Department, I don't get $92,000 or $92,700 to spend. a percentage of that comes back into police capital. And if I'm not mistaken, Chief Booker had to kind of fight to get that, because before that, 100% of that went into the general fund. So for us doing the work and adding the extra people and doing the work, a percentage of that dispatching contract then went back into police capital, and that's for improvement projects. We put in a new voice recorder. We rebuilt all the consoles. You know, we bought a car. So that's part of our police capital improvement plan. So depending on how this goes, is it better that we cut the cost and we try to match what the county is? Do we go a little higher? Do we go, I don't know that we want to go lower. Is some money better than none? I'm open for opinions.
Are there some other services that we could work into the agreement in lieu of some of the funding, like labor, streets, snow plowing coverage? I don't know.
I'm not understanding the question, Heather.
Are there other services from maybe Garrettsville that we could work into the agreement in lieu of some of the funding that it would take that the village could use in lieu of? So maybe, you know, a certain amount of snow plowing, labor, I don't know, just different projects.
I'm confused. I'm not understanding where the snow plowing comes in. If a dispatcher, what we provide for dispatching services is we dispatch for them 24/7. We also enter warrants. They keep the original warrants. We provide their warrant services, that kind of thing. We are a clerk for them. If they have criminal charges and they need clerk, we provide that service for them. We store their audio, the radio traffic, as well as the phone traffic for them. We also house the Marks radio for the Garfield schools for them. That's part of what our dispatching contract is. It's strictly for dispatching services.
Right, but you were saying the funding didn't necessarily go to the police department 100%, right?
Correct. 20%
so-
of that went back to police capital,
Okay.
and the other
20%,
80% went
okay.
to the general fund. Is that
Okay.
correct, Jenny?
25% goes to police capital, 75 goes to general fund, but general fund is the police department budget.
That's true.
Yeah. So basically the dispatching services go, yes, the village is bringing the money in, but then we turn around and fund the police department budget back. It helps offset out of the general fund back for the police department budget.
And
Yes.
then we can change the appropriation through the year for things that you need. The police department needs and wants to have. And we do that every year.
Not necessarily for the police department, but appropriations have been changed.
They're things changed for the police department too, Mayor.
I said not always been.
I said, that's fine. I agree. Not always.
Marty, any comments?
Yeah, in your opinion, is it equitable for us to cut our percentage? I mean, we can't go down to what the sheriff's department is offering them.
Well, if we don't, the bottom line is we still are under contract until the end of 2022 with the fire department. Because in 2019, we signed either way, the dispatch center has to stay open. We have to have somebody here. So if, say, for example, if we say, no, we're not budging on our price, and they pull and go to the sheriff's office, we still have a fixed cost. I still have to pay the electric. We still pay the phones. We still pay to have a person in the chair. So is some money better than no money?
Is there anything that you can do to extend the service that might make them consider going with you again?
There was, we are what we call a secondary PSAP. Any primary PSAP, a first point of contact has to have, say, first aid rendering until you get things going and the squad gets there. So primary PSAPs, they have to have that. We're a secondary PSAP. And at one point we had discussed that that's a liability for us to be given CPR directions. And I wasn't aware, but apparently there was an agreement between the Garrettsville chief and the former Manaway chief that that training would be provided to the dispatchers here. And that was brought up last week that that had never happened. I didn't know that until last week that that was part of that agreement, because again, that was a couple of years before me. But what we have is when the sheriff's office one button transfers, they stay on the lines. They are the primary point of contact. So when you call 911, your call goes to the sheriff's office first, even if you're right outside our village hall here. You call 911, it goes to the sheriff's office. They stay on the line, they transfer the call here, we send the help. I'm certainly open to meet. The way we left the meeting was I would bring it to art safety, and then I'm sure it would go to finance and then go on to council for discussion. And I think they were going to do the same on their end. But I mean, do I want to lose them as a customer? No, I don't.
Chief?
Yes.
Well, I don't want to lose them. It's still a very good possibility, even if we match their price, they're going to go. And while I think that $37,000 is a little something is better than nothing, I think we have to start thinking about long-term.
Mm-hmm.
And a possible suggestion for safety to consider is maybe put a 0.5% income tax on for police only. I did check with Jenny. Jenny, I'm sorry I don't have the figures in front of me. I think that Jenny said our 1.5% generates about $650,000, somewhere in that time price range, or not price range, but dollar amount, and that an additional 0.5% would generate a little over $200,000. So that would help supplement the police department. Jenny, I'm sure you have the figures in front of you.
Yeah, if we raised income tax another 0.5% and designated a 0.5% just to the police department, that would bring in $216,667.
But wouldn't that, to raise the income tax, wouldn't that have to go to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
And and I've never put anything on a ballot. So if we were looking, say, for example, to do that this fall, does anybody know what the deadline dates are?
Well, I think we have to do 2 separate pieces of legislation, don't we, Michelle?
Yeah, there's 2 separate pieces, and I'm pretty sure that August is the deadline to get everything down there.
Usually the
I
20,
have all that legislation.
I'm sorry, Michelle.
I said I have all that legislation from other times. I'm pretty
Then,
sure.
no, go ahead, Michelle.
I'm trying to scroll through and see if I can find, because it's either 90 days or 120 days before the election, which would be July or August. I don't know what it is right now.
it's August sometime.
So if we did 3 readings, we would probably have to have at least 1 special meeting.
Let's see.
Heather, what are your thoughts on
I would support that. I think it's a great idea. That's a decent amount of money that would help carry the department through.
Marty and Ben, you guys have been,
I'll go along with that.
you guys know the
I'm
community.
gonna think about it for a little bit. We're gonna have a finance meeting.
No, I get that. No, my question was what I'm getting at. You've been in this community for a long time. Is this something that you feel the community would support, knowing that it's earmarked strictly for the police department and, for safety forces here, that it can't be used for anything else?
I do.
It's going to depend on how the economy is going when the vote comes. If the economy is going downhill, they probably will not vote for it. If the economy is in good shape, they may vote for it. That's
True.
the way it's been in the past.
And I know,
We send it to finance.
I couldn't hear, go again, Marty?
I said I make a motion, we send it to finance.
I'll second.
Fine, send it to finance.
I think all we can do is try. I mean, if it gets voted down, it gets voted down, but we got to try.
It'll
Okay.
depend on the economy.
Yeah.
Okay,
And nobody has a crystal ball on that. So,
right. Well, then,
Just send it to finance. That's
all
fine.
right, then I will also be at finance, and that one's next
Wednesday.
Wednesday at 6:00. So Michelle, if you could make sure I'm invited, I'll go ahead and hop onto that one as well. That's the only other thing I have, something to think about. Wanted to bring it up now, so we'll bring it up at finance, and then we'll move it on. We'll see where it goes from there. That's the only other thing I have under new business. Items recommended to council. We'll put 331.45, we'll send it back there for wording. Is that correct? I had a motion by Heather and a second by Marty.
Yes,
Okay. Items referred to finance is going to be the whole Garrettsville tax issue. I have nothing for parks, nothing for service, nothing tabled. We don't need an executive session. Our next meeting is looking to be June 2nd, 2021 at 6 p.m. If I can get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
aye.
Aye.
All right, and we are adjourning at 6:32.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You guys have a good evening and take
All right.
care of yourself.
Night,
And be
Ben.
safe.
Night, Heather.
Thanks,
Bye.
thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
All right.
Mayor, do you need me for planning?
I don't think so.
Okay. Nobody else has questions?
Yeah, Joe, before you go, this is Wes Hawkins. How are you?
Oh, good, Wes. How are you?
Good, thank you. So quick question. You said that you treat dispatch as a business, and I understand that 100%. You know, when a business loses customers, it goes out and generates new ones. Have we recently put out any ads or any feelers regarding dispatching for anyone else?
Everybody is moving either towards the county or they're all already with primary PSAPs. Last year, at the end of last year, Aurora, Wyndham went with Streetsboro, some went with Ravenna, and then the rest of them went with the sheriff's office. So Hiram Police and Hiram Fire left Aurora, and they're now with the sheriff's office. So it's pretty much everybody staying where they're at, or they're moving to the sheriff's office.
And that's just due to cost, or that just in that we're secondary as opposed to primary PSAP?
That this is strictly a financial decision.
So out of curiosity, what's our increase in cost on bringing on a new client? We already have somebody in the seat. What's the cost to us to have an additional entity using our service?
There really isn't any. Because I'm still paying that person a per hourly rate, a full burden rate. We still have the electric. when we take on a new entity, they pay for the phone line coming into our building. And we have fixed costs.
So why are we not able to undercut then?
Well, what we had discussed earlier in the meeting was the body language. If we meet what the sheriff's office is offering for dispatching services, I don't know that they will stay.
Right, not meet, undercut.
Undercut who?
The sheriff, I mean, if they're saying, hey, we're not gonna allow you to continue this service if you meet the sheriff's department's price, why are we not able to beat the sheriff's department's price?
Because then is that fair for the fire department that I'm in the middle of a 3-year contract that's going to be paying more than that?
Well, you're in the middle of the contract. I mean, you'll be able to renegotiate when their term is up.
But then they're going to want a price reduction as well if I give a price reduction if I undercut everybody.
But that's the point of a contract. You're locked in at a set dollar amount for a set period of time, and when that time is up, you're able to renegotiate.
Wes, I hate to interrupt because safety has already been adjourned.
I understand that 100%, but
Maybe
I didn't hear.
I understand.
The citizens, yeah, I just didn't hear him ask if there were citizens' questions at the end of the prior meeting, so I'm just addressing it now.
Well,
Oh,
you
no,
could have done it before you adjourned.
citizens was number 7.
Okay, I just hate to see something go to the taxpayers when it's not necessarily being treated as a business decision when we're saying it's a business, but that's my personal opinion.
Okay. Well, then,
Wes, I invite you to come to planning or to come to finance next week, Wes. And that way we can discuss it then.
Okay.
Then you're on the record, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to attend.
If you
Yeah.
can. I'm just saying, you know what, that would be way we've got your questions there too. On the record.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe.
okay, you're welcome. If anybody else needs anything, you can send me an email. I'm going to go ahead and get out of your meeting.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, thanks. Good night.
Thank you. Michelle, are we ready to go live again?
You've been live the whole time.
Okay, then we'll get our show on the road. Call this meeting to order at 6:38. Has everybody read the meeting or the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion to
Changes,
approve.
additions, corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved.
On favor?
Second,
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. I don't see any citizens on board. So we'll go ahead and move to the zoning inspector's report. Just turned in on file. Anything to add to it?
Nope.
Okay, that was quick. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, first item of new business, discuss chicken livestock in chapter 400, section 400.01F and section 505.01 in the codifieds. And that would be section A. And I suspect there's a specific reason we're discussing this tonight.
I got a phone call from somebody that lives in the village, obviously, that their children are building a chicken coop and they wanted chickens. And when I looked it up, they could not have chickens. And then it was brought to my attention that quite a few people have chickens in the village. And to be honest, it's been, if the way people look at chickens anymore is different than they had 10 years ago. So I don't know if you guys want new legislation, if this is something people in the village want to have. Because we have I think three residents that have chickens in the village. And if I say no to this person, I'm going to have to go and tell all these other people they have to get rid of all their chickens.
Who has over 5 acres in the village that can have chickens?
No,
How many properties?
Nobody.
I don't
So
think anybody, except maybe the one, I don't know if the one at the
New
bottom.
farm, maybe.
Huh?
The
Yeah,
new
that one
farm,
at the end,
right.
on High Street, on the
But
left.
barring, no, I'm thinking of the Sontags, the,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I
who
don't
bought
know.
Hopkins, who bought Hopkins, but otherwise you're out. 5 acres, if you don't have 5 acres, you can't have chickens right there in the ordinance, right?
Exactly. So, right. So, I
Done.
mean, I'm just asking if that's what we want it to be, because if that's the way we want it to be, then people that have had them for years, we have to go and get rid of them.
I agree. Because how do you get 50 feet away from any like lot line? I don't have that big of a lot.
That was just an example of some
No,
kind of.
no, but it's in the ordinance. It's 50 feet away from lot lines, from property lines all the way around.
Is that in our ordinance?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's in the sample
Number
ordinance.
4.
It's in a sample ordinance. It's not, we don't have a chicken ordinance.
No, it's on livestock though, on page 85,
Oh, okay.
400.01.
Well, and I knew it was 5
F1.
acres. That's why I told the person no. Okay.
Right. But I'm saying it says 50 feet from lot line. Who's got 50 feet from a lot line anywhere around that they could put one? Like,
I do.
okay, but most of us don't. have
Well,
50
a
in the
lot
village.
of the depths are over 100 feet. I mean, I don't know.
But but 50 feet from each one, from each lot side.
I
And then
don't,
how
I don't
big,
know
you
the
know,
sizes of all the lots. I
Right.
just
None
know
of the
that there's
residents-
people in the village that would like to have chickens. I don't know how much it's harming all the other residents with it, or if you guys don't want it, I mean, I can enforce the rules. It's whatever you want. It's up to, you guys.
Right, because people on Canada Road that are in rural residential, some of those might have 5 acres and have chickens
Right.
out there.
and that's
The
different.
Hopkins property that's gonna sell, he knows he would have to ask for a variance because he says once they move in, they're gonna ask about those fancy little sheep,
Right.
different things that they want, so. So he's aware of the ordinances.
Yeah, I looked up to see what we talked about to him in September. And I was like, oh, we discussed it, him getting a variance. So, but yeah, I was like, I think you enforce what's on the books. If you don't have 5 acres.
Well, that's what I'm doing now. I mean, in other things, that's what I'm doing now. But some of these people, I think, have invested a lot of years in these animals.
You say there's how many more people with chickens in the village?
There's 3,
There's 3.
one on High Street, not sure the exact location, one on Reagan and one on Line Street.
What was
But
the
I'm
third
aware.
one?
If
What
there's
was the
more
third
than-
one?
Line, Line.
If there's any more than that, I'm not aware of. I know of those 3.
The option for the 3 in place are to file for zoning variance, I suspect, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And I mean, we're trying to get it so that everybody's covered by the zoning as it's written right now. If we've been derelict in not enforcing it, shame on us. My opinion is if this individual wants chickens, they can file for zoning variance and send a letter to the 3 that we know of and instruct them to do the same.
Okay, I can do that.
And well, I mean, that's what's the rest of the folks think about that.
I agree, because I don't think putting new legislation in, do you grandfather those people in? Do they say, well, I had mine prior to that? I mean, I don't think that helps at all, so.
Anybody else with comment?
Send them letters,
Scott?
Mary Ann.
I'm on board with you, John. I think the one thing that people forget about chickens, chickens carry a lot of disease. And when those chickens are just free ranging in somebody's yard, that's a problem. And that's what's going on. I mean, I can sit here and watch it happen in my neighbor's backyard.
I have to say, I did see one of their chickens loose today. I did see that.
Yeah. I got a picture at work one day of a rooster standing on my daughter's front porch,
Well, and
Or my
that's in the legislation saying they can't get off their own property. You can't have
Right.
livestock off their
Exactly.
property, right? So,
Right. So I guess, I guess we just have to,
Be
Just, we
enforceable,
we
yeah.
need to follow the legislation.
New sheriff in town, Marianne.
No problem.
Wes, what do you think?
So if those do come before the Board of Zoning Appeals, right? If they request that, at that point, do we look at the structure in which they reside? Is there current legislation? When I say the structure in which they reside, the pen, right? And this clearly spells out what a pen needs to accomplish. I honestly didn't know there was anyone in the village that had chickens or
I didn't
roosters.
know there was 3.
So do we have a baseline for what it needs to? I assume they have to have a coop of some sort.
There's nothing in our codified about it that I know of. Or our zoning,
About what?
about chicken coops.
Yeah, the maximum height of the pens and shelters shall be 6 feet.
Well.
There is some stuff in here.
Okay, I didn't know of it.
But it is required that they have one established, I assume?
Yes. Outdoor pens and shelters for animals shall be located only in rear yards and shall conform to the minimum yard requirements of the residential district in which it is located.
And every chicken shall be assigned? Is that, because
They have to be penned.
it does say they have to be penned. 'Cause
Well, the
when you say
implication's there.
What's that?
The implication is there. I mean,
Well, it says that any pen must meet these, but it's not saying that every chicken has to live in a pen.
Well, no, and I think but it does say you can't go off your own property. So if you've got a fence up and they can't get, they're not gonna fly over the fence, you know what I mean? They're in your property, but you still have to have a pen to house them.
John, can you give me that number that you're on?
Yeah, let me pull it up, because it doesn't
yeah,
sound
I'm
like
in 400.01 of the zoning code, of our
Thank you.
current zoning code.
Thank you.
some of the silly things that come before us, I'll tell you.
Yeah, right?
I looked at, F, and it says, has to have 5 acres to be compliant.
Right.
That's what I had told, that's the one I had looked at. And that's why I said no.
Somebody addressed
Right.
me as far as I know.
So I don't know how you get around that, Wes.
I don't get around that. I'm just saying if they come before the Board of Zoning Appeals and they say, hey, are we allowed to have chickens? We've had them for 10 years. This one is part of the family, basically. I'm not going to tell them, no, they can't have their chicken. And, let me know when the barbecue is. But I also want to know, hey, if I say, yes, you have to have chickens, I also want to be able to follow up and say, but you have to follow X, Y, and Z.
Well, you
And I
do
don't-
have the Ohio State University Cooperative Extension. It mentions that in F4 and shall provide that such area meets the minimum standards on size, on how many, that would say how many they could have based on their lot size.
Okay.
You got that?
I'm sorry.
It's 400.01 on page 85.
F4. Marianne, did you locate the one that allegedly is on High Street today?
It's not on High. The chief thought it was, and I went and drove there, and he thinks that's a chicken coop, and it was on 2nd Street and the next one over. Not
Or
High.
Franklin.
Franklin, yes. Right across from the church. And I was looking there and the chief stopped by when I was there and said that that's where he thinks they were. I did find the other
Church or across the street from the church?
across the street from the church.
There's no way that's 50 feet.
Across the street from the church is Italiano's, and then the other house.
Okay, across the church. Okay, it's on the south side of Franklin on 2nd Street.
That White House?
It's gonna be that greenhouse, right?
It's green. Yeah, it's green.
Let's go, yeah, Katie Knight's old house.
No. It's gonna
Okay.
be
That's the only, oh, okay, you behind the church then.
behind
They
the
have
church.
rabbits in a pen there too. I mean, so here we go. What about rabbits? I mean, that could be the next thing. I mean, this could just,
It's gonna be on the corner, the northwest corner of Franklin
Of Second and Franklin.
and Second of Franklin.
Yeah. I think it's gonna come down to what's commonly considered a household pet.
And I was just thinking the same thing, Wes.
I think,
Because when you see what service animals are now and what's allowed on an airplane,
well, and that's the thing. Some people actually consider these chickens household pets.
if you keep it in your house, fantastic.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Now, see, I had thought years ago that they were in the Wilson's house on High Street. So the second house between Second and Harold. There's the 3 houses there.
Right, so there's
But
no
that
way
was
that's
years
got,
ago.
there's no way that's got 50 feet between
I
on,
know.
right? So I don't know where you get around this, Wes.
No, I
And
don't.
I didn't realize it.
I don't think you're
There were
understanding.
chickens
I
on
don't.
Dragon.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
I don't want people having chickens, but when they come to the Board of Zoning Appeals
Mhm.
and they say, "Hey, I want a chicken," they've been with us for 10 years, right? I can almost guarantee you that they're going to say, "Keep your chicken." And at that point, I want to be able to say, well, you need to follow X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, it's, so I'm not trying to get around anything. What I'm saying,
Well, I mean, yeah, I
what
mean, I
I'm
don't know how
saying
you
is this,
prove it.
they're going to keep their chickens. It's going to happen. No, I don't think anybody's going to say, get rid of your chickens. But I want to have, I'd like to have something in place that says, if you have chickens, you have to at least do X. Does that
I
make
agree with
sense?
that. There have to be stricter guidelines.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a police officer last summer chasing a chicken around the park.
Yeah, because the chickens that are there, I can almost guarantee you are going to stay there because they're going to say, well, we haven't had a problem for the last 15 years. Right, and that they're going to get approved. It's that simple. It just is. And if we don't have something that say, well, keep your chickens, but you have to do X, and it's going to be an accessory building, and on down the line. And I'm not looking for anything complicated, but
well, I mean, you just opened up a whole new can of chicken feed there when you said accessory building. A chicken coop will be an accessory building.
yeah, I mean, it is. The dog, I mean, especially if we follow these guidelines where it has to be, it was like
6 feet tall.
100 square feet.
Well, that was in the sample, Wes.
Yeah, that seemed like a big chicken coop to me. I'm not a chicken farmer, but that seemed like a big undertaking
Well, it had to be 500 square feet if you read the sample because you have to have 400 feet of,
for the pen.
it doesn't include the 100.
Right.
So, it's like,
No, I'm with you.
I have a new home in my backyard too.
I mean, 50 feet on top of that would be, you'd have to have a good chunk.
That's why I think it says 5 acres, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing that under 400.01A, they can't be raised, bred, or boarded for business. If somebody is selling eggs, that's illegal. So they have to quit selling eggs. Right?
There were no signs of people selling eggs that I saw.
Okay.
Take these eggs, make a donation.
To the police department.
Otherwise, we're gonna put a levy on.
Yeah. Well, I still think, send the letters, let them get legal. If that's how the Board of Zoning Appeals feels about it, and I assume that's final word. Council can't override that opinion, Michelle?
No, council can't override a Board of Zoning Appeals, only the Court of Common Pleas in
Okay.
Ravenna can.
So that's the right way to do it then.
Okay.
Either get these people in compliance or tell them to get rid of the chickens.
Oh, yeah, get them in compliance, but you're still gonna have chickens running down the road and police officers chasing them because we don't have anything really established that says, you know, that at least outlines it. What's that?
Then we need to tighten it up so they have to be caged or penned or whatever.
Yeah, I mean.
But we do have an animals at large statute in 505, so that it's not a zoning ordinance, but it does cover them escaping from the property.
That's in the codified?
So yes, yeah, it's in Title 5. It's 50501 or 08. One of them's nuisance and one of them's running at large.
And the codified, Michelle?
Yep.
505. Yeah.
Yep.
Let me get that book. Green book.
What color is that?
If anything, I'm glad this is getting denied because Ashley's been asking me about chickens and I keep on telling her it's not allowed. So this is
They are becoming popular.
regrettably, yeah.
Get a 50501A. You can't let them run wild.
505.
Will not be permitted to run at large upon any public space or upon any unenclosed lands or upon premises of others. Of another's.
First David has is 2007.
I'd even be happy with just adding a tagline on this, and this says chickens must be penned.
Yep.
And that can be in 400. But I think we do need something.
This calls out, yeah, chickens as running loose.
Okay, well, we'll have to,
No,
we got, because the place on Reagan Street, the entire front yard is the pen. You know, and the sample, where did I read it? I read it in one of these places. The pen should be in the backyard, the rear yard.
Yes.
Is that the sample or was that the actual?
No, that is it's 401 B.
I don't think Steve.
Outdoor pens and shelters for animals must be located only in the rear yards.
Right, okay.
oh,
No.
oh, yes, they have.
Stevenson?
Stevenson, hell yes, they were arguing with, when I got on council, they were arguing with Ed Trigo about flooding their property. So,
Yeah, but he was here until 2011.
Okay, so where are we going with this? Are we sending letters to the 3 existing?
is when I got on council.
Yes.
Informing the individual that contacted you, Mary Ann, they'll be required to get a zoning variance if they wish to keep them?
Yeah, the person that contacted me doesn't have them yet.
Okay,
So, right. So I believe that person will probably be denied because of, that is not in even a residential, that's in village center. So I figured that would be denied, but.
well,
when
don't think that because everybody seems to think that village center, you can do just about anything you want to. It's such a loosely defined area versus R1, R2 that.
Well, then I won't think that, but the point is when that person said, well, these people have it and these people have it, I needed to come to you guys and get some clarification. So it's the same across the board. I mean, depending where you live for zoning.
I hate to tell you, you got chickens, if they're where you say they are in village center.
Oh, yeah?
I'm looking at this right.
I don't know if, I think that's a rabbit hut. I don't think that's a chicken coop, but I'm not sure.
Well, it's going to fall under the same ordinance.
The way that I'm looking at this, it skirts around and goes down,
That map is so
along the
bad.
river. It goes up and down the High Street from Harold, and it goes around the block.
Mhm.
that Harold is, part of Harold is not. And it looks like Second Street straight up all the way to Grand Elm.
Up to Maple, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the way and Maple.
yeah.
It's okay. It's a long day, Mayor.
Yeah, it's like that little section of that block in Harold is not on Harold Street is not.
Yeah, between Harold,
But it picks
Harold
back up
Street,
at
between
Second.
Second and Harold,
Yeah,
Franklin is not.
Michelle, I gave you that address. Was that on First Street?
Well,
It's in my email somewhere.
that's Village Center. I mean,
Yeah, that is Village Center. That would be Village Center.
10702 First.
Okay, because if it was Second Street, it would have been R2, but it was First Street. Okay.
No. Part of Second Street is in Village
Part of
Center.
Part of
Harold Street is in
is.
Village Center.
Part of it, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, that is the weirdest breakup in the world.
Like spot zoning.
yeah, exactly.
I
There,
wasn't gonna go that far, but now that you said it.
okay.
So apparently we need to really sit down and tighten up 400.01, or maybe that entire.
Yeah.
No, that's the only thing that covers animals. Everything else goes to yard sales and blah, blah, blah.
yeah, but nowhere in here does it say that they have to be penned. I mean, nowhere does it say that you have to have them in a pen. It just says outdoor pens and shelters. It doesn't.
Right.
If a pen or shelter is located in a residential district, if a pen. So, I mean,
Yeah, but this is not even really listing chickens. It's how the chicken a household bird?
no.
It depends where you live.
I
Well,
guess.
yeah, right.
Or how you live.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think that's where you go down to the F. F doesn't list it until it's another species, like other than a household.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but like Wes said, then how do you define household? That's changed dramatically since this was written.
Is the chicken a grazing animal? I guess it is because it's out there pecking.
Okay,
Right.
505.01A in the codified says no person being the owner or having charge of cattle, horses, swine, sheep, geese, ducks, goats, turkeys, chickens, or other fowl or animals shall permit them to run at large upon any public place or upon any unenclosed lands or upon the premises of another. So that specifically states any animal, in theory, has to be secured to the property somehow.
What was the section you were reading again?
Excuse me?
What section again?
505.01.
Oh, you're in the codified now.
I'm in the codifieds now.
So chickens are defined as domestic chickens, but it doesn't say anything about pets.
Are chicken household pets? Let's ask Google.
That's what I'm trying to do. A domesticated animal kept for pleasure rather than utility.
Well, that would be a chicken. I mean, that,
Mhm.
Sure.
oh, we just opened up the, we just opened
Household
up the-
pets does, according
Chicken-
to lawinsider.com. Michelle, that's your favorite one, lawinsider.com says chickens are a household pet.
No, I don't know that one. Not one of my favorite ones.
It says they could be both. They could fit either. So when these variances go out and they're gonna come back, they're gonna come back and say they're a household pet.
Not if they're not living in the house.
Correct.
Well,
Not if
we
they're-
had
not if
rabbits.
they're-
We had rabbits that didn't live in the house. We brought them in the house once in a while, but not very often. They were in a hut outside.
Yeah.
People keep their dogs outside. There are some people that do not bring their dogs in their houses.
Then they're not a household pet.
Don't tell Charlie that.
We could
But there-
change the wording to say only customary household pets.
That's still pretty loose.
But customary, you wouldn't take a chicken as customary, or a pig, or
Today, but 10
Well,
years from now, maybe.
I don't know what people have. What do they call those pot-bellied pigs?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have a friend in Chagrin Falls. She has a pig that grazes in her front yard. It's considered a family pet, Tallulah or something.
Marty says the reason they're pecking outside is because they need to peck gravel so they can digest their food. If they were strictly an indoor pet, they couldn't digest their food because there's no gravel in the house.
That's when you get them a bowl full of gravel.
That's why they sell like oyster shells for chicken food. Or get rid of your vacuum. Everybody could go along with that. Just let your floors get dirtier.
what
Okay.
does the ORC say about chickens?
The only good chicken is fried on my plate.
I don't think the ORC talks about it in the sense of what we're doing, which is zoning, which is purely local ordinances. And what I would say as far as whether a chicken is commonly household or commonly not household, our zoning definition of agriculture, which is what 400.01 relates to, the definition is the use of land for farming, dairying, pasturage, apiculture, horticulture, floriculture, viticulture, and animal or poultry husbandry and the necessary accessory uses. So for our zoning purposes, chickens, poultry husbandry is an agricultural use, which is then governed by 400.01. And pretty much that's it.
If you're using them for husbandry or if you are,
And then are you keeping your chicken in your house and letting it run around to and fro from living room to kitchen to wherever? And I would say zoning doesn't rule it. But if it's an outdoor chicken, then you're probably keeping it for some sort of poultry husbandry, even if it's just for the personal consumption of their eggs.
What's the definition of husbandry? I'm sorry. I don't know.
Raising of livestock.
Raising and keeping animals.
Breeding. Wouldn't that be breeding?
Mm,
No.
I don't think so.
mm-mm.
Just keeping them.
But do we get the slippery slope of I only have an outdoor dog?
Well, I have a personal opinion of,
Right, or outdoor cat, or you know what I mean? Then you go.
well, I don't think dogs should just live outdoors.
I don't either, but
My dog lives on the sofa.
But some people do. I
my
mean,
little dog leads a cushy life. Yeah.
just because we don't agree with it doesn't mean.
Clearly, we need to tighten up 400.01.
That's fine, I'm at a meeting.
would it just be simpler if we said chickens are not allowed, period? And then just go through and say, if you have a chicken, it has to be in a coop and have a pen?
Well, if you're going to say they're not allowed, then why even worry about if you have one, they
But
have
they're
to be in a
allowed in-
pen.
They're
I'm
allowed in
sorry?
certain areas. They are allowed when you have 5 acres. So we can't rule it. I mean, short of 5 acres, you're not allowed. But if you have them, you have to follow X, Y, and Z.
I think what you're getting at, Wes, and it's a good point, is you're going to end up with a lot of people in the Board of Zoning Appeals looking for a variance to keep chickens, at which time you're going to want to, if you grant them a variance to keep their chickens, you're definitely going to want to impose conditions, and you just need to find a consistent set of conditions that you'll want to impose for each variance if you choose to grant one.
Correct.
So those could be the conditions that are already listed in 400.01. They could be some other set of reasonable conditions, maybe depending on what kind of lot the person who's applying for the variance has. I guess you'd want to take each one on a case-by-case basis, but try to be as consistent as possible when you're crafting your conditions.
They have enough property.
I don't know how much they have. They don't have 5 acres.
Oh, they go all the way back.
Because right now, as it stands, in any lot except a lot where agriculture is permitted and more than 5 acres, chickens are not permitted.
The creek coming out of the,
No, they also have some of their stuff on the property. Yeah, I'd have to look. I have a question. If we're gonna send out letters to anyone within the Mantua village limits, okay? That has chickens, then are we gonna have to address the people that have free range chickens out on Canada Road?
They're covered by that section in the codified now. So the answer is no, no free range chickens.
Well,
They can have it on their own property, free range.
if they're not getting onto other people's
But
property.
if they
I guess
go
if they're-
off that property,
I guess if you gotta stop when you're going down the road because there's chickens out in the road, then they're not staying on their property.
And they're violating 505.01, which is a police issue.
hey, there was a bill actually taken to Ohio. I just lost it. The current draft allows per 1 acre of land up to 20 chickens.
Holy crap.
Well, chickens make crap, yeah.
Chicken scram.
And that's just what I found real quick.
But again, we don't have that in the village proper.
So I'm looking at the color zoning map that's on our website, and what part of that is agriculture? Because in the key, it says there's no agricultural. It just says open space conservation, rural residential, and then it goes up from there.
So you'd want to find out which zoning districts agricultural uses are permitted in.
Isn't it R1?
And then
Oh, I get
only
it. Okay.
in that district, if you
RR.
have more than 5 acres.
Okay. So R1 is only down there.
Ambler Lane.
Yeah,
RR is Canada.
right.
Yeah, so agriculture is allowed in OC and RR as permitted uses.
Now, we'll have to make an exception with the people that bought the Hopkins property, right? If they're gonna have livestock.
Yeah,
They're already expecting to have to apply for a variance to do that.
Right, but
That's that before they bought the property.
Right.
they probably have 5 acres down there, you think?
Oh, yeah.
So,
There's like 13 or something, isn't there?
okay. So we can,
Oh,
Who knew chickens were so complicated?
well, yeah. I mean, if we're gonna come up with something, Tyler, we need to decide, okay, what's the maximum number of chickens? Nobody's ever, that's the funny part, nobody's ever complained that I know of.
well, doesn't it say you have to go to the Ohio Ohio State Extension? and
OSU
forward?
Cooperative Extension,
Yeah, it says how many you can have per acreage.
And he just said 20.
no,
Yeah.
that was a bill that was introduced in the Ohio
Oh, okay.
No government.
Right. So
So, I mean, we could go there and see if we could find a number or talk to them.
well, they have to show proof when they do their variance, right?
Are they
Yeah,
gonna
we can
want
leave,
to have roosters?
we can leave that on them.
Yeah.
Do you let them have a rooster?
Oh, we have some.
I'm gonna
I
say,
know there's one, I know there's one on Reagan Street in your backyard.
I think
Yeah.
you have to have a rooster or they stop laying so many eggs. I think that's a thing.
Oh, I thought you only needed the rooster to fertilize the eggs.
No, I think I don't know. That's what somebody told me out here that owns a farm. You have to have a rooster or they slowly stop laying eggs. They're just not compelled to lay eggs anymore.
The rooster's the bodyguard. Ask the dogs back on Reagan that scream bloody murder when they get tangled with the rooster.
There are dew claws on there.
Yep.
Okay,
Randy, have they always had those fenced on Reagan? Didn't those used to run free?
The chickens?
Yeah.
He hasn't had them that long. He had them once, and I think his dogs killed them. And then they were gone for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're back.
Okay, 'cause I had never noticed.
These are little chickens. These
I
are
never
huge.
noticed right. I never noticed he had chickens until I saw the fence. I used to see chickens out in the street occasionally, and I thought that they were for the people over on Lime Street.
I think those might have been originally.
Now
He
I
is
see that
always
those are penned in the backyard.
he has always had that fence down there because he's always had dogs. So I mean, he's always had that fenced in.
Okay,
But the chickens, I don't know. I mean, I didn't think chickens would fly over a fence. I think they just get out and they just roam wherever they want, you know.
yeah, because I never noticed them before last fall, and I thought,
Chickens
oh,
can't
you just
fly,
come in.
Randy.
Yeah, they just, I mean, they can get
They
up a couple
glide.
feet in the air, you know, they can kind of
Glide.
jumping when they're running. But yeah, he's always had a fence, but it's not keeping in chickens.
okay, and to settle another point on the spruce.com, you don't need a rooster for your hens to lay eggs, as hens will lay just as many eggs whether there's a rooster around or not. The rooster will protect the flock, hatch baby chicks, and that's about all they're good for, and being mean.
Yeah.
All chickens shall have a collar and remain leashed. All right.
Well-
Are we good on this?
I'm bringing your boys chickens next week for Mother's Day. Is that what I'm doing?
And then it's barbecue
I'm
time.
sending out letters. I'm sending out letters to the people that own the chickens now and to the person that wants to send them. I'll send him a letter saying that if he wants them, they need a variance, and I'll send out the other ones that they need a variance.
Correct.
And when I write that letter up, I'll send it to you, Michelle, to check it out.
And we'll have to find out who owns the ones on Canada and let them know they have to be penned.
Yeah, I think the penning is going to be the issue.
We could
If
just
we-
send the police down and have the chickens arrested.
I mean, if we stick to 400.01, you know, the pen has to be in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I guess that's where you would start your argument, Wes.
All accessory structures have to be behind the primary, so.
Yeah,
Well, the ones on Reagan aren't in the backyard.
no, I know. That's what I'm saying. This is, if they have to come for a variance, this is where it begins.
Do they even
Yeah.
have a backyard there?
No, they do not. The coach house to the house on, the old coach house to the house on Prospect, 2 doors down from me, is their backyard. That was one property split at some point in time.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Just same as mine. So,
Okay.
Way to open a can of worms, Marianne.
I didn't, a resident did. I just can't,
Yeah.
you have to be the same. You can't pick and
No.
choose.
you're
So
right. You have
Yep.
to.
I'll probably be opening up a lot of can of worms. Sorry about that.
Fine. No,
Like,
Uh,
like one of the things coming up pretty soon.
Okay.
happy with it.
Okay, so numbers or letters to those folks. Apparently, do we want to start reviewing 400.01 and tightening it up in
Yes.
Yes.
next
Yes.
meetings?
Yes.
Okay, that'll starting next month, that'll be on the agenda. So everybody take a look at it, see what you think
Okay.
need to do to make it easier for Wes and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yeah.
Yep.
We can just say yay or nay, but that still leaves a can of worms, you know, it's.
Absolutely. Okay, any other chicken discussion? We beat that chicken to death.
It's what's for dinner.
Thankfully, we had pork.
Oh. we're having chicken tonight.
No swine in the village.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and move on to Tom Van Auken, discuss the FEMA grant funding. I haven't really heard too much back from Todd or Lisa. They were gonna check into that. I did talk to Tom Van Auken, and he said that he approached the Park District. And when he talked to them, they were amenable to going into a joint venture with the village on taking care of this and doing the grant work and stuff. And he said that they were going to contact the village, but as far as the mayor knows, that contact's never been made.
Okay.
Somebody put that dog in a pen.
Put it outside.
In the backyard.
So my question, do we want to go ahead and contact Chris Craycroft and see if she is interested in working on this deal with us? And
Sure, you do that.
Sounds like a great idea, John.
Good idea.
if I were a government official, I would. Somebody elected needs to make those kind of calls. I can give her a call. It doesn't matter to me.
I will send her an email.
And she may be able, you know, where Todd had mentioned that we'd have to use, I don't remember what they're called, our points or whatever. If we wanted them helping us with the grant application, she may be able to get it done for free through Todd's
Right.
office. So, you know, that would be a benefit.
She probably has points just like we do,
Does she? Okay.
probably.
That's why it's a good reason for somebody that knows how to do this stuff.
I put it down. I'll send her an email.
Okay. So that's all I've got to report on that. Sidewalks.
Sorry, we haven't done anything on sidewalks. We've been too busy with other things. Not that those aren't important,
Well, yeah,
but we've been really busy with other things.
we'll get them.
I do have something to put under new business before you go to old business.
Go right ahead.
Food truck vendors.
Yes.
We've had a food truck vendor that has been parking at the mini mart on Saturdays and Sundays without a permit from the village. I don't know if they have any other kind. I don't know if they have something from the county or not, you know, the health department. The neighbor right next to the mini mart called and complained about the generator being so loud there. Mary Ann did call them, and I will let Mary Ann pick up what they told her.
Well, I emailed the owner of the Quick Mart because it's on his property, and told him that food vendor trucks were not allowed and to please take care of this situation. And I had the person that owns the food truck call me very upset, which I understand he's upset. But he said that the people in the village of Mantua love his food truck, and that he leases out a part of that building, so he thought he was exempt from the food truck ruling, in our zoning. He said that the place that he leased was too small for a kitchen, which I told him that the building had nothing to do with it. I mean, to be honest, I don't care what he leases. Okay, so, sorry,
Marianne, let me interrupt you for, where is food trucks in the zoning?
Oh, now I have to think.
41005.
Oh, it's in front zoning?
Well, it's
I thought it was in the codified.
snack stands, food vendors, and vending machines operated and
Yes.
located outside in the enclosed buildings shall be prohibited.
Yes, thank you, Wes. That's exactly what I cited in the email, was that part. And
I'm sorry,
anyway.
what was it? One more time, where was it?
41005.
Thanks.
So he says he's going to petition and send in a variance. And so I said, go ahead. I mean, everyone can send in a variance, and maybe the village wants it. I don't know. I mean, there's two thoughts here. People might really like it, because I know people did like the sub shop that was in the Quick Mart there and previously, but then all of a sudden you are taking some business away from some of the restaurant owners too. So I don't know how the village feels about any of that.
My only concern on the outdoor food is if, say that the butcher shop wanted to cook ribs or something. I mean, they don't have the space outside, but they want to do it in the side property there, and they, got a permission from the landowner, right? I wouldn't necessarily see a problem with that. But then they would have to go through the same channels of, zoning.
So the sub shop has a grill on the side of their building in Benner's green space that they have been cooking ribs on.
Grill ribs and sell them.
Yeah, and he sells them. So does that go under, I didn't think of that. Does that go under the same? It's on, I don't know what that goes under. It's on somebody else's property,
Right,
private property.
Yeah, I think that's a sticky situation, right? Because he's not operating outside, he's operating inside and has a grill outside, right?
Right.
Right, but when the meat market, when Pops used to have the meat market, occasionally he would put a grill out front and do brats and sell them outside.
And people enjoy that. I mean, we don't want to take away things people enjoy too. I mean,
but both of those are not generated. Those are both coal power, they don't have a generator running them, right?
No, but then I did point out to Michelle when we were having a conversation during Soapbox Derby, the Lions usually set up their food truck and sell hot dogs and such. The fire department used to have a health day or something down at the park, and the Lions Club would be down there. And it's things you just don't think about. Shame on
right,
on council and myself. And then when they had the Cog River Water Trail dedication down at the chilling station, the Lions Club had their food truck there, and they were selling hot dogs and hamburgers.
In the parking lot that is now Dollar General. The one was a friend of Compass Packaging. And then High Butch Meats sold out of there all last summer.
See, I never knew High Butch Meats was selling out of there.
Does Mantua have an ice cream truck that drives around? Would that come under the same jurisdiction or no?
They don't anymore.
It would.
It would, yeah. As a vendor.
It's a food vendor.
Yep.
What about, okay, so that's,
Swan
what about parking spaces? Doesn't the Quick Mart have to have so many parking spaces open?
One is delivery.
I'm sure they do, but I don't know what the number is, but.
So
So
if
then
you
they
pick
move
up-
it, they move it from that parking spot and they put it somewhere else where there's not parking, you know, I mean,
Right.
they'll find another spot.
If we delimit them down to the park? I mean,
So, Michelle, when it says outdoor sales and display of merchandise necessary but incidental to the operation of the principal use is permitted only in the village center district and shall comply with the following. So, like the sub shop, I mean, obviously that's, well, that wouldn't be incidental though.
Oh, the food?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it is.
So does C even apply to like the butcher shop? Does it apply to the meat, to the sub shop? Because it's
Are
not
you-
incidental.
Are you still in 410?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1405.
41005, hang on. 41005, come on, don't stall. 41005.
Where's that on the?
So
Very much, okay.
I guess C, which is snack stands, food vendors, and vending machines, they're prohibited regardless of whether they're necessary or incidental. They have to
Well-
comply with the following. So they're prohibited.
Right, where when it says outdoor sales, display of merchandise necessary but incidental to the operation of the principal use is permitted only in the village center.
Right.
And shall comply with the
these-
following.
But these aren't incidental. These are primary.
I don't know,
An
is,
active business within the village, right? Wes, that's what.
Right, I'm saying if you have an active business
Well,
in the village
Quick
and this is your
Mart-
business.
so your question is the Quick Mart leases a small portion of their business to this people that now have the food truck. So is it primary or is it incidental to the Quick Mart? Because it's,
Well, how many square footage do they have inside the Quick Mart, and is it over exceed 25% outdoors?
I don't think that matters because C says it's prohibited regardless of any other conditions. It's
Mhm.
prohibited, period. Food vendors operating outside or located outside of an enclosed business building prohibited.
Right, but you only have to comply with the following if it is an incidental part of your business.
Necessary but incidental. I don't think that necessarily implies that if your primary business is selling food outdoors, that allows you to do it, because it still says that they're prohibited. And I think that C pretty much stands alone.
Hey, I don't. The way I read this is outdoors. So if you have a primary business and you do this primarily on the inside, right?
Mhm.
So
Does-
if you traditionally do this inside, and it's not incidental to your business, it's your primary activity, that A, B, and C would not apply to you.
but the thing is so this person said that the kitchen, they don't use it because it's too small. So it sounds like they're basically using their food truck to sell it as just because they're using it as primary doesn't mean that it's allowed, because then you could have a food truck at every,
Right, well,
you could rent out part of your parking lot at the village hall, and you could have a food vendor there and say that's primary.
no, it has to be primary to the actual business. That's so.
So they're
The way
not
I'm
selling
reading
it in the building anymore. I don't think they're selling it in their building. They're only selling it in their food truck because they said that that part of the building was too small.
How could they, well, it just seems to me a food truck has to be pretty cramped too.
That's a big business though. I mean, that,
I guess the reason for bringing the whole thing up tonight is there a will of the planning commission to try to craft some reasonable regulations to regulate food trucks rather than prohibiting them outright?
Well, because we have them at the potato festival.
Right. They're at the potato festival. They do have them at Soapbox Derby. I mean, so do we want to have some
Have them at
regulation?
Art on the Hill.
And this gentleman said that he priced out how much it would cost to put an outlet out there, and then he wouldn't need a generator. So I mean, if this is something the village wants to do,
That's a
then
conditional use building then, right? That's an accessory building on that lot.
is it?
Is
That's
it?
I have no
temporary. I
idea.
don't think you can call it that because it's on wheels. I mean, you can pull it right
And you can
off.
tow it. Yeah,
Um,
it's a vehicle, right? Because it's licensed.
Mhm.
Do you run, see, that's the thing, we don't know. Does he run a hose out there? Does he have, because he's selling food, does he have to have water available in the trailer? Does he have a health permit?
Mhm.
You know, those are probably things that we want
I am writing to him again and telling him about the health permit from the county, and he also needs to register with the village as a business. So, and
So-
in the letter, I was going to tell him that, you know, at planning, we are discussing food trucks, you know. Maybe we should invite him to the next planning meeting, although I'm sure he wants to have his food truck up every weekend between now and, you know, for summer.
Does this move into a noise ordinance though? The sound of the generator is the problem at the end
Well,
of the
yeah,
day?
'cause we had that problem up on Harold, Maple Street. It doesn't appear that he had water. I have pictures,
Mhm.
well,
but then he also has a propane tank. If he had propane, why would he need a generator?
Electricity,
to,
maybe?
electric.
Oh,
well,
sorry.
Mary Ann, the issue is also handled in B. It says area devoted to sales or display of merchandise shall not be located in areas intended for traffic circulation or pedestrian use, except on Main Street, where outside sales and display shall not extend more than 5 feet from the front of the building.
Okay, so this is parked right by the sidewalk, way far away than 5 feet from the front of that building.
Yeah, so he couldn't have it there even if he wanted to.
So he needs to move it over by the building if he wanted to. And then that leaves it open for the sub shop downtown to be grilling outside in their side yard. Or,
Well, I mean, even if he had his truck parallel to the building, it would still be more than 5 feet.
right.
I think we still run into a thing where we do have food trucks when it comes to festivals and things. We allow them then. So does it?
Or
do we need-
events, festivals or events.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think those are fine. I mean,
But we don't have that stipulated as a
We need
difference.
to-
well, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever the Potato Festival requests a permit, they include that within that request, dude. And that goes before council, is that right?
Yes,
So,
for a special event form, you're correct.
Okay.
And the Soapbox Derby does get a special event form to hold their event.
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe that is covering them. I'd have to read the details of what the special event form says now.
In the village, we do have something either, we just had it a little while ago, and I can't find it. It was either in the codified or zoning that covers fairs and festivals.
Okay.
I can't find it again.
I think that's in Title 7 of the codified.
You're
Okay,
not supposed
Holly.
to talk, Michelle.
Sassy.
That's where it is. 5.
Okay, the special event form doesn't really address food per se. It just says vendors shall be responsible for obtaining proper license and permits for the sale of alcoholic beverages. Doesn't say if you're selling food.
Well, we can always add it.
I want to prohibit commerce, but I also don't want it to be a nuisance and
What,
So do we want to change anything in this?
in which one?
Well, we can't change anything in the codified. We can only change something in zoning.
Mhm. We can change the event form too, right? So-
We can change, we can make a recommendation to change the event form.
So,
And then do we just change it or does it have to go somewhere else to be changed?
Council has to go before council after if we,
To change the
So-
event form?
We did have the event form approved by council the last time we did that legislation. So I would say it's probably a good idea, especially if it's going to have regulations in it governing things like food trucks.
so with 41005, if we had a large box store that wanted to sell clothes on the outside, kind of like the Dollar General does by Marathon outside of town, would that be prohibited here as well, or since it's
but in B, it allows it. If you go to 41005B,
That's the, Wes, I think that comes under the outdoor sales and display of merchandise necessary but incidental to the operation of the principal building. I think that's and that's where my mind immediately went to, is to Dollar General. Or like right now, we're seeing at the new flower shop, every morning you're seeing flowers sitting outside and, little knickknack signs and stuff like that.
yeah.
So Michelle, would a food truck fall under a peddler?
It might, but I think the way that section reads, and I don't have it in front of me, is that they're moving around.
Yeah, right here, peddler or solicitor means any person traveling either by foot, automobile, truck, or any other type of conveyance from place to place, door to door, or from street to street, taking or attempting to take orders for profit. So the mayor's right when she threw out the Schwann truck
Mhm. Or an ice cream truck would be.
or an
the-
ice cream truck. The Schwann truck makes a weekly sabbatical down here to one of the neighbors and stops and by our definition, that individual is a peddler.
Right.
You'd hate to take that away from residents because
Right.
for some people, that's a big convenience.
Sure. it is.
Well, is the Schwann cut, he's not going door to door peddling though. He's being called to that house. He's a
correct?
contractor, right? At that point, right?
But they do some level of peddling, because I've had them ask me personally if I wanted to buy things from them as they were passing by to go to another residence. So that's a form of peddling.
Right.
I've never called them.
And I've had Marty get me ice cream bars from them when they go to his house.
Well, that makes you a peddler then.
They're root beer float ice cream bars.
That makes Marty a mule is what that does.
Marty the Mule.
Does he look like a cutout sitting back there?
Guys, you needed him yesterday.
Well, I heard that comment last night too.
That would have been awesome, Marty.
Okay, what do we want to do about food trucks?
They're not allowed.
Is that another section that we want to review?
He will be bringing a variance, Wes. So get ready for a busy summer with the chickens and the food truck.
Maybe you can hook them up.
I mean, if it's absolutely prohibited now, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. Let them file for variance and spend the money.
I
I think we do need to address it. I think in some way they should be allowed without generators, maybe further away from the street than they are. Like this one, is up on the outside edge of, up to the, not on the sidewalk, not encroaching on the sidewalk. It's inside the curb that is there. But
Well, I also, I think that there needs to be, I mean, somehow, I think we need to be able to have a copy of their either licensing or permitting from the health department on file at the police department.
yes,
You know what, if they were playing some crazy little softball tournaments or little league tournaments down at the park and a food truck pulled up in the parking lot, I think that would be great. We don't have anybody doing that. I think down at the park, if there was a function going on, I think that would be fine. But I also think that we should not allow anybody if it's some fly by night,
Yeah, who knows what's
I
in their
think there needs to be a paper trail of you were inspected by the county or by the state. You do have your food handling permit or license, whatever they do give them, because we know that they do. Wes, remember we had to go through this when we did the pumpkin roll.
Yeah.
Remember?
Right.
We
Well, I
went
know
through
that-
this whole thing.
All the food vendors at the Potato Festival have to meet
Right.
health
So
department.
I think if anybody is if we do allow it in the village, I think that paperwork needs to be on file. Personally, I mean,
and they need to register with the clerk so they pay their income tax to Rita.
There you
right,
go.
right.
Would you guys like some hopefully simple legislation to
Yes.
hash about next month?
Yes.
Yes, that would
Okay,
be wonderful.
one of my favorite things to do.
because
Do you want to put in there about it not being on the edge of the property? Because I think that is an issue at Quick Mart.
well, let me ask, and Michelle, I'm asking you specifically, does A, B, and C seems as though it's conditional on that paragraph / sentence above.
Okay. I agree that they do relate to that. So something that's necessary but incidental. So one, it has to be necessary, but two, it's incidental. I don't actually, it seems kind of ambiguous what that actually means without even getting past the first line. So what is necessary but incidental? I mean, if it's necessary, it's not incidental, it's necessary, right? They
Right.
almost contradict each other, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And regardless, they have to comply with the following, even if it's necessary and incidental.
Well,
Then
but A, B, and C don't stand on their own.
Well, food
Because it
vendors
says-
are prohibited regardless of whether they're necessary and incidental.
Well, where does it say that though?
See,
And C,
See,
But C is contingent on that section above, because it shall comply with the following, and then it lists out A, B, and C. So you
so you're
can't say that
saying
A,
the
B, and
food
C.
truck is
stand on their own.
necessary, or you're saying the food truck is incidental?
So I'm saying that if you're gonna sell brats outside and you need to barbecue it, then
that's
It-
necessary.
it's necessary and it's incidental to your,
For the primary business, though. This
But then
guy
it's
is a business in his own right. He's his own entity, is not
Right.
part of the Quick Mart.
Yeah, his
What-
primary business is the food truck, so that
So It's
just,
not incidental to the Quick Mart. It's not going to affect his revenues anyhow. And, I'm sure he's not giving
right,
the owner of the Quick Mart a cut of money. I don't think.
Yeah, but he's leasing the space inside even though he's not using it is what he's alleging. And we
Well-
know that.
That's bad business on his part, not ours.
Right.
Right, just because he's not using it for that business. I mean, so then on that, you could go rent a doctor's office, not use it, and put a food truck out front and say, well, that's because I'm leasing that building, or probably not a doctor's office because you're all of a sudden you're gonna say change of use and all that, but you could do that. I mean, so.
Has he
That's kind of-
registered his business, his inside business with the village? Has he done
Pardon?
any, has he said, I mean, has he registered at all with the village that he's got a business inside and?
It doesn't, he was
No.
pretty upset and it doesn't sound like he has, but it doesn't mean that he hasn't. I don't have any proof one way or the other. He was upset that the landlord got an email. But our rules are to the landlord. They're not to the people leasing it. The landlord is ultimately responsible.
Right. Well, and you had a complaint against the property.
Right.
This
And
wasn't.
we,
this
and we
wasn't
really
a-
don't know, is he leasing it?
Pardon me?
We really don't know if he is leasing part of the building or not. We don't know that.
I would assume that he is because I sent the email to the owner of the property and he forwarded it on to the truck person. So, I mean,
Okay.
And Manaway never assume anything like that.
okay.
What I think the takeaway from 41005 is our needs have probably changed since this was written. And we need to readdress it, and it might just be best, it's two, 3 paragraphs. It might just be best to start from scratch.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I totally
definitely
agree.
need something.
We'll look at that next month too.
So when I write this email about the food permit and the registering, I have to put in there that he needs to stop, cease.
Mhm. Cease and desist, you're not allowed.
Okay.
At this point,
At this
you might
point,
know that we're gonna be readdressing it, looking at it. That doesn't mean we're gonna change anything.
Okay.
right.
Can't
Michelle-
promise we're gonna do
Michelle,
that.
you committed to bringing some simple legislation next month for us on this?
Well, I'm committed to bringing you legislation and I'll try to make it simple.
Oh, darn.
You know how I get.
I thought I
Make
could
it
find that
interesting
one.
to read at least.
As a side note, when we had the pumpkin roll and we requested, and we had to provide the permits, the more I think about that, it was primarily because we had insurance, because it was a village function. So our underwriters made us provide that documentation.
Right.
I don't
But
think,
when we solicited vendors though, remember, I mean, we went through that whole thing that they had to have the license from I think it was from the state, wasn't it? Or maybe it was the county.
right, but we were only doing that because we had, our insurance carriers were requesting that information.
Okay.
So I don't know if we have anything in writing that says that they need to provide that to us, in effect, this food truck, because we're not responsible in effect, as we would have been if something would have happened out of the pumpkin.
Right. Okay.
So we might want to look at, whenever we do 41005, if you do have one of these stands, you are required to provide
Yeah,
documentation.
right.
We just say
Well,
copies of the food permit that they register with the county because the county is the one that gets.
Absolutely. And
And
insurance.
Yeah.
And a lease. If they're saying, if he says they're leasing property from the property owner, copy of the lease.
Yeah, I think that's our due diligence to the citizens of the village, for us to make sure that they have followed the rules,
And that they're registered in the
and
village.
that they're registered and that they've been licensed through the state or the county, whoever does it.
And then we're also going to want to think about, like in your example, where they pulled up to the baseball field, they're going to be taking up parking spaces there.
True.
We have rules for that, and that's not an answer I'm looking for now, but it's something that we need to think about.
Well, and you know what? B addressed that. When you brought up B and, 41005, that does address it. I mean, a parking lot's intended for traffic circulation or pedestrian use.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can simplify that, or we can really cement that a little better, but that does bring that up. So,
Or create a little bit of leeway there. It's allowed for 2 hours during, X, Y, and Z.
sure. Okay.
Like you said, we want to allow certain things like that.
Right.
Right.
We don't want to chase business out, but they need to follow the rules.
So can we
Yeah.
have them register? They have to register that they're coming in this day at this time and
For some reason, I thought ice cream trucks had to do that. I thought in order to sell within the village, you had to. So if you are selling vacuums door to door, do you need to stop at the village and
And get a peddler's permit, and you pay
Yes.
by the day. I think you can pay by the day, the week, or the year
Mhm.
for a peddler's permit.
and there's a fee associated with that, right?
Right.
I mean, we might do something like that.
Do we do that with the Girl Scouts?
I think we probably do because they're peddling something. I think they all have to get their little permit. Don't laugh.
They gotta pay in cookies.
When Jehovah Witnesses come around, do they have to have a permit?
well, are they peddling? They're not selling anything.
Salvation's free.
Well, they are. They're selling their religion. Want you to come and give money.
They're canvassers. They have different rules.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
They're covered by the First Amendment.
okay. So we have stuff coming from Michelle next month, so we can work on this. Mary Ann's gonna have a nice discussion with the guy when she gets back from vacation.
I think I'll send it out Friday
Oh, thanks.
Friday at 4 o'clock.
Make sure your answering machine says that you're out of town for a week.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm zoning. Okay, any other conversations on the food truck vendors?
Nope.
How about old business, target of opportunity finding for the east side of Main Street too, CDBG.
Okay, all of you got all that information from Lisa that you've had a chance to review to answer any of the questions you had. We did get copies of the 3 of the 4 property owners that say they're committed to it. A 4th one would be the hole in the wall property. If they don't, we probably should have it, but it's only necessary if they pursue the parking lot. But that was part of the slum and blight reason because that property burnt down, so.
40 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
How many, Wes?
But probably closer to 30.
1984.
84. Yeah, right.
Oh, I thought the fire was for the upstairs of the meat shop that had caught fire.
Well, there was
Oh.
fire here too.
Yeah, that was later in the 80s. Maybe it might have been early 90s.
Okay, so no further discussion on that particular item.
Mhm.
Okay, rental inspections, we're gonna leave that for now. Zoning and maintenance issues, anything to update on that list?
Okay, let me tell you, I'm gonna start at the bottom. Snyder's were mailed a letter on 5/14. Yatzos were mailed a letter on 5/14 from Michelle.
414.
Huh?
414. 514 hasn't happened yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I typed it wrong here, guys. It's a good thing it's only an agenda and not minutes. Mark Miller also got a letter. He has responded to the letter. Marianne forwarded the nice email to me,
Message,
and I
voice
called him,
message.
and he said he couldn't believe, had some words in there, that we were sending him letters when the previous property owner had been there and had some more nice words to say. And I said, wait. I said the previous owner had been getting letters and he would do a little bit of work. I said, when we first sent out this letter in January, it went to the previous owner. We didn't realize that you had purchased the property. Well, he says that the house is going to be torn down because it's not salvageable. And he has told Mr. Blank to get his blank junk vehicles off his property, and it's going to be turned down. And he told me to schedule to have us come out and shut the water and sewer off up there, and I should call the county. So he is going to let us know as soon as he has a date that the house is coming down.
Good, okay.
I did send out another letter that's not on there.
Oh, sorry.
To Berlin Groves. He has a truck that's gutted with no license registration and that's parked near the reservoir. And I just sent that out last week.
And you're not sure if it's even on his property or the reservoir property,
The
correct?
Portage County Water thought it was on their property, but the point is, it doesn't matter whose property it is. They both agree that it's well, I haven't talked to Berlin, but people in the area say it's Berlin's truck. So it doesn't have proper registration or license. I mean, that alone. And it's also turning into a junk pile there. So it's a safety issue. So it doesn't matter whose property it's on, it needs to disappear.
Okay, make it happen.
Okay, anything else for zoning?
Yeah,
Not for
so the Dollar General. So I received a call from Jeff Benner. He's like, hey, just want to let you know what they're putting up doesn't necessarily look like what they had submitted in their plans. He's like, it may be an underlayment, I don't know, but just have it on your radar. And but when you drive by and you look at it, it has that vertical siding, or that vertical metal siding, as opposed to the lap siding that it should have, and the brick wainscot on the sides and on the front. So I spoke with the mayor, and she's looking into that. Any update on that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Gene Arders went down there. That is going to that siding, sheathing, or whatever you want to call it, that is on the north, south, and west side of the building is going to be covered up with that cement batten board, whatever it's called.
Good.
And also they'll have the brick stuff around. The only part that is going to remain, the aluminum siding, vinyl siding, whatever you want to call it, will be on the east side of the building.
Okay.
And I also called Mr. Benner and let him know, so
Perfect.
he would not be worried about that.
Thank you. So is it is that their traditional underlayment, or did they?
Yes.
Okay.
And
They
that
have
type
to
of
have
building,
something under the batten board. I'm sorry.
that you had to have something span those steel columns to be able
Right.
to apply that clapboard to. And then that's typical for that type of a building.
Good. Yeah, it just what it looked like is any other Dollar General that they have out there with just those vertical metal sheets, and I was a little concerned.
Yeah, John John noticed it yesterday too, but he didn't say anything to me.
I know.
No, I called Gene and he drove out and he talked to them about some of the seating and some of the things that they were doing, getting a time frame. So,
Okay.
So what is the?
and we have heard about, we've had their sign people call us twice so far, but they have not submitted anything for their signs. I mean, they've given us a rough idea. I have something around here somewhere on my desk that shows basically what they were going to put on the building with the downlit signs or the hook neck or whatever you call those. And then nothing on the street sign, but they do know that it can't be internally lit and it has to have some kind of down lighting. Or
Gooseneck.
uplighting.
Gooseneck.
Gooseneck, that's it.
So what do we have as height requirements on those signs?
Height,
Yep.
I think that it was, oh gosh, 6 feet. Is that?
I'm looking as well. I just want to make sure it's not 20 or.
No.
No, because we went over I don't remember the numbers was, but we went over that when we were talking about the signs and made sure that they understood the size that they were allowed to have and they were fine with it.
I gave the folder back to Mary Ann. It was in there this morning. I think that the top of the sign cannot be any higher than 16 feet, but I don't think it was that high. Mary Ann, do you remember?
I don't, I'm sorry.
I know Michelle was here one of the times that I talked with him, and it's been like the beginning of February when he talked to us. It was quite a while ago. Because those are the things he had asked that day, just to verify from what Casey had sent him, how high it could be, what the width could be, how wide and how thick and all that stuff. And we went over all that with them.
Okay.
I just don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry.
Okay, anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Hi, everybody.
Good night.
Good job, Mary Ann.
Wes, I'll email that to you when he gave us. I'll find it tomorrow.
Okay, no hurry. Thank you.